Hi guys, it's Janae and welcome back to my channel, and today I'm continuing my read along for a yeah, I'm gonna have to get used to saying this. Tyrant's beloved no, disabled Tyrant's beloved pet fish. Damn. Sorry, that's a mouthful. I wish there was a shortened way of referring to it. I feel like I'm just gonna start referring to it as beloved pet fish. We'll see, but anyway, hi. Welcome back. We are on the second read along for this, so we're still relatively new to everything, still kind of trying to find our feet, but so far it has been hilarious. Also, hi! um, so yeah, we are gonna be trying to do 2 hours like normal. My eyes have been really tired recently, so we'll see how that goes. But hopefully it'll be okay, you know? Hi! Gay fish novel. Oh my goodness, that's one way to put it, I guess. So I have my tea here with me. If you're new here, I generally take a 10-minute break on the hour, and yeah, we just kind of go with it. And I hope I don't make too many mistakes while pronouncing brand new names that I have yet to be comfortable and familiar with. So, anyway, hi. Okay, so I think let me give it like maybe 2 more minutes in case there's anyone who's still out receiving their notifications and who want to join in. But I hope you guys have had a good weekend and will have a good week. I'm sorry about missing Thursday's one. I actually, like, I knew I had to give Thursdays a miss. I mentioned it in Tuesday's live stream. But then Friday I had a friend over and I just completely forgot that live streaming was even a thing that I was supposed to be doing. So I'm so sorry about that, but we are hopefully, if all does not go wrong, back to normal scheduling with this, depending on how things work out. Oh goodness, is it not sending out the notifications? I'm still of the opinion that we are reading a cartoon. We very well might be. I think it's one of the most unserious novels that I've read. But I don't know, it kind of like reads in the way that it would make a fantastic anime. Um, and I mean, we did get an Omega anime, so I guess anything is possible these days. Or censorship might just be a thing of the past. Okay, so while we wait, let me quickly open up here. Also, this time I did remember to link the novels in the description for anyone who is curious. Um, and I just saw Urha's Volume 7 cover and it is stunning. I can't wait to have that on my shelf. I'm coming down from reading 2 volumes of Urha, so lighthearted is good right now. Yes, that is me as well. I like this is a very good counterbalance to Urha because I'm still kind of a little bit triggered. Urha is beautiful, but it is sad. Okay, sorry. I just need to find a way so I'm not hitting the mic as we are going. I think we can get started. So we are on page 59, chapter 6, The Fish Swimming at the Bottom of the Bowl. The system gave Liye a tip. You don't need to enter the system first if you want to use the inventory. To use the shortcut, you can tap the jade scale 3 times. You can put anything within your field of vision inside, so long as it fits, using just your thoughts. Okay, that's a good thing to know. The system continued talking. Nia smiled. As limited as the inventory space was, its method of usage was pretty cool. Not too shabby. He went to check on the main quest in the system. Just as he thought, the second task of priceless pet fish was now completed. Sorry, why am I struggling so much right now? The third task, get along with the Tyrant. Time limit, 3 days. Oh wow, okay, that's not a lot. Leo was speechless. Getting along with the Tyrant, interacting with the Tyrant. Didn't the system know anything else? Not to mention the bar for interacting had already been so high. He hadn't been able to do it alone, and he needed Prince Jing to participate as well. So what on earth did getting along with entail? And there was a time limit too? What was going to happen if he didn't complete it before time ran out? I'm sure your system will have something for you. Exceeding the time limit counts as a failure, and the user will become fish bones and fish. Alright, enough, I get it. I just have to complete the task within 3 days, right? Can I at least rest today and start tomorrow? Sorry, the timer starts from the moment you complete the second task. What? Lydia took a closer look and realized it was right. Right next to the task was a small countdown. Seconds ticked slowly by. This system. Why didn't it let him know that the timer had already started? What if he had slept for 3 days? So time still passed while he was in the system. Leo couldn't waste any more of it. He quickly exited and came back to the real world, arriving just in time to hear Wang Shi's voice. It turned out that while he was oops, sorry, something fell off. It turned out while he was accepting wait, where am I? It turned out while he was accepting his reward, Prince Jing and Wang Shi had already returned, and Wang Shi had spoken for a while. Luckily, the prince hadn't come over to visit Li Ye. He hurriedly swam around a little, shaking himself out of his dazed stupor to prove he was still very much alive. Pressing up against one side of the tank to listen, he could faintly hear Wang Shi's muffled voice. Why did the emperor call your highness to the Qianqing palace so suddenly? The eunuch asked. This old servant heard the emperor had visited Chongqie palace, so I thought the noble consort must have said something to him. After all, that white cat is the noble consort's beloved pet. I almost said beloved pet fish just out of like sheer habit, and we haven't even been reading this for that long. High stakes for a little fish, big responsibilities. Oh my goodness, you guys. Something seemed to occur to Prince Jing. A mocking smile curled his lips. The servant didn't mean anything else by that, said Wang Xi hastily. Of course, your highness wouldn't care for such things, but you do, at the very least, have to show some respect to the emperor. I'll accompany you and explain things clearly to him. I refuse to believe the noble consort can conceal the truth. When Prince Jing showed no reaction, Wang Shi continued. Then I'll follow your highness. Wu Tianqi thought about it for a while before reaching over and blocking Wang Shi's way. He shook his head. Wang Shi froze. Your highness, doesn't want the servant to come this time? Asked Prince Jing's personal servant. As Prince Jing's personal servant, Wang Shi had taken care of the prince since he was a child. He could tell what the prince wanted just from a single glance. If the prince wanted to speak, Wang Shi was almost always able to say exactly what the prince wanted. The sudden summons of Prince Jing to Qianqing Palace led Wang Shi to guess the noble consort had probably hinted something to the emperor. Without Wang Shi there by his side, wasn't the prince doomed to take the fall? Prince Jing's dark eyes flicked to the top of his head expressionlessly. Wang Shi understood at once. The emperor ordered your highness to go alone? You're not allowed to bring anyone with you? Prince Jing nodded. Wang Shi was speechless. The emperor summoned Prince Jing and yet wouldn't allow him to speak? That is... oh... My brain immediately feels like that's abusive. How are you taking away someone's voice like that? Oh. Okay, sorry. What was the meaning of this? The worst case scenario would be if, after years of Chongqie Palace exerting its influence, the emperor turned his affections away from his highness and onto the second prince. Wang Shi's eyes immediately burned red. No, the old servant will follow your highness even if it means my death. I actually really like him. Prince Jing looked at his sorrowful face and hesitated a moment before tapping his shoulder lightly. Deliberately going against the Emperor's wishes would only give the other side an advantage. That's unfortunately true. Besides, Prince Jing didn't think a mere noble consort could do anything to him. Then, what does your highness plan to do? Wang Shi sniffled. Prince Jing's distant gaze landed on the porcelain fish tank that stood behind Wang Shi. Your highness wants to... Wang Shi was shocked. He couldn't mean... The way Prince Jing held himself was calm and relaxed, an easy grace about him. The very picture of confidence. Wang Shi gritted his teeth. Since your highness has already made his decision, the servant will obey and go prepare. Liu heard everything. The noble consort wanted to make things difficult for Prince Jing, and Wang Shi was discussing a plan of action with the prince, but Liu wasn't worried about Prince Jing at all. In the book, even though the noble consort seemed to have the emperor's favor, she didn't end up living very long. Liu figured this wasn't a big deal, since there wasn't a detailed passage about this particular situation in the book. Nothing major was going to happen. Otherwise, how would Prince Jing ascend to the throne? Prince Jing was the kind of person who held grudges. An eye for an eye. If the noble consort really dared to try something, she wouldn't be reaping the rewards. She would be suffering the consequences. Anyway, as far as Liu was concerned, Prince Jing seeing the emperor was none of his business. He was a fish. Must be nice to, I'm a fish now. I don't have to worry about humans' lives anymore. All he had to do was wait quietly in his tank for the prince to come back before continuing his task. While the 3-day time limit wasn't very long, it wasn't too bad either. He had completed his first 2 tasks entirely by chance, so perhaps it would be the same for this one. To his surprise, though, he watched Wang Shi rummage through the prince's chest and shelves, where he procured a little jade bowl. Is he gonna take him with? I'm scared now. He approached the fish tank with an ominous look on his face. Liu tensed. Wait, stop. What are you doing? Liu screamed. Wang Shi's sleeves rolled up, quickly snatching up Liu and deposited him into the jade bowl. The jade bowl was much too cramped, and the water it held was very shallow. There was barely space for Liu, who was forced to crawl up into a circle to fit inside. He couldn't even swim normally, let alone roll around. If he extended even just a tiny bit of force, he would surface from the water. That is scary. I don't like that. It wasn't very safe. He curled around himself pitifully. Wang Shi murmured to him, Little thing, you'll have to bear with this for a while, since His Highness has decided to take you with him. Be good and don't embarrass him. How is he gonna embarrass him? He can barely move. Holy hell. What was Wang Shi saying? Was Prince Jing okay? A man who couldn't speak, bringing a fish that also couldn't speak. Liu didn't want to see any emperors or noble consorts. Knowing that Prince Jing was a noble prince and that he had the rest of the plotline ahead of him, Liu didn't think the emperor would do anything to his son. But Liu, on the other hand, was an entirely different matter. He was just a fish. If the emperor didn't like him, he could easily throw him away or roast him. That's a grim thought. Wake up. It wasn't up to Liu to decide where he went. With this trip, the fate of his fish life was up in the air. He had to come up with a contingency plan, and fast. There was still one spot in his inventory. Liu took a deep breath. While Wang Shi was distracted, he frantically tapped on his scale, thinking, Let me save some clean water. I want water. He could survive as long as he had enough water, unless the emperor decided to cut off his fish head. Although there was water inside the jade bowl he was in right now, it was much too shallow to feel safe. If the person holding the bowl had shaky hands, he was screwed. He wasn't going to leave his life in some stranger's hands. He was going to save himself by saving some water. Leah hadn't put anything in his inventory yet. He definitely didn't expect it to come into use so quickly. He had only heard the system explain its application once, so he was purely relying on luck. Good thing he had a pretty good memory and remembered most of what the system had said. Instantly, the water in the porcelain tank became shallower, while Li Ye's inventory filled with water. I have water. Satisfied, Li Ye put away his inventory. Wang Shi called a group of servants into the room. They were all busy with their own tasks, so no one noticed the volume of the water changing inside the porcelain fish tank. I'm glad they addressed that because I was like low-key wondering if someone would notice. Once Prince Jing had decided to take the little carp to see the emperor, Wang Shi had to make sure everything was taken care of. He prepared several small jade bowls of around the same size and various changes of clothes, all of which had to be taken along with the prince as a precaution. Wang Shi may not have been able to go with the prince to see the emperor, but at least he could do was take care of Prince Jing on the way there. Okay, for a moment I don't know why that sentence confused me. Yeah, no. Um, mm, Prince Jing gestured, indicating that he would hold the little carp who was about to meet the emperor. Wang Shi handed the bowl over respectfully, and Prince Jing glanced inside. The bowl was quite small, so the fish couldn't even fully stretch out inside. Wang Shi said there was nothing they could do about that. It wasn't like they could take a larger bowl to see the emperor. That would stick out like a sore thumb. The little carp might have been more comfortable, but what would the emperor think? Prince Jing didn't care what the emperor would think. The bowl was too cramped. He shot Wang Shi a judgmental glare. Wang Shi thought his eyes were playing tricks on him, and rubbed his eyes hard. Your Highness, you're going to see the emperor. It's best if you take the jade bowl. Prince Jing sidestepped around him and pointed at a different bowl that had been taken out during Wang Shi's search for the jade bowl. The bowl was huge, with the delicate ripples of water painted on the side. It was fully large enough to hold a pot of soup. Wang Shi's jaw dropped. Prince Jing was a stubborn man. Whatever he wanted, he was going to get. The large bowl was quickly brought over. Glancing briefly at Wang Shi, Prince Jing poured the little carp along with the water into the larger bowl himself. Then he filled it up with more water. Oh, okay, let's see. I'm scared I'm gonna hit the mic if I get too close to it. Let's see how this works. There was something I wanted to mention as well. Um, hmm, something about the bowls. Oh, I'm kind of just a little bit scared that the Emperor might take this as Prince Jing bringing a token of his appreciation or like apology or something like that, and then he will take ownership of our dear carp and fry him. I hope that's not the case. I don't think it's going to be because we still have at least 2 more volumes to go, but it is a concern. Li Ye was suddenly freed from the confines of the Jade Bowl. What happened? Why did it change again? But this new bowl was so much cooler. He liked it. Li Ye demonstrated his fishiness to the extreme, swimming and jumping around in his new domain. Since Prince Jing had moved him into a larger bowl, he had to amend his impression of the prince. Perhaps tyrants were, on occasion, good at taking care of their pets. Seeing how delighted the fish was, Prince Jing's lips twitched a little. After a second's thought, he brought out the box of red fish feed. He carefully took out a few pieces into the bowl, in case this fish became hungry in their overexcitement as they made their way to the palace. Oh my goodness. Leah couldn't be more grateful, completely unaware that from afar, between the large bowl and the floating red pallets, he looked like a large bowl of goji fish soup. This is my concern though. With one hand supporting the bowl on the bottom, Prince Jing covered the top with the other in case the fish got too lively and jumped out. Even though he wasn't touching him directly, Li Ye could still feel the heat from his palm. It was warm and unexpectedly cozy. Like Li Ye had originally had doubts about whether this person was reliable, but if the prince protected him like this, it should be safe, right? The little carp's anxious heart gradually calmed until it settled down to the rhythm of Prince Jing's footsteps. That's kind of cute. Um, is the audio better or is it like staticky or anything like that? Because I'm in a little bit of a strange position here. Okay, chapter 7. The fish meets the emperor. Prince Jing brought Li Ye to Xianqing Palace. As they made their way over, the system, which had been silent this whole time, suddenly spoke to Li Ye. The prerequisites have been met for the side quest Clear Bright Pearl. Would the user like to begin the quest? What was going on? He hadn't gotten along with Prince Jing yet, but now there was another quest, and a side quest too. He couldn't glean anything from just its name, though. He didn't want to overcomplicate things by having to worry about a side quest and the main quest at the same time. He'd be overworking his poor fish brain, but out of curiosity, he still asked about the reward. The system replied, "The reward for the quest is a temporary transformation medicine, allowing the user to return to human form for a short period of time." Oh! The effects will last 2 hours. There will not be any penalty for failing the side quest. Okay, that is important. A medicine that could turn him back into a human? Why wasn't this brought up before? Even if it only lasted 2 hours, couldn't he just do the quest a couple more times, receive the reward over and over, and use them one after the other? Then he could stay human forever. The reward can only be claimed once. The system mercilessly reminded him as it witnessed his naive stupidity. Yeah, no, you were getting way too optimistic there. Yeah. Okay, great. No, it's fine. It's not uncomfortable. It's just, I'm kind of touching one of the wires, so I don't want it to cause anything weird to happen. But I think it should be fine. Let me just quickly grab some tea. Fine, I already knew you were a fish scamming system. He absolutely had to do the side quest. He had nothing to lose if he failed. If he had the medicine to transform, he could pick a suitable day to eat a ton of human food, talk a lot, and go anywhere he wanted to. Leo was originally human, but it wasn't until he became a fish that he appreciated how freeing and delightful it was to be a human. It would only be a short couple of hours, but getting to re-experience being human for even that amount of time was simply too alluring. Sorry, it's just one more task. I'll do it. This quest, called Clear Bright Pearl, consisted of only a single line: obtain 1 luminous pearl. Why does that seem like it's going to be difficult? The stupid system's quests had always been vague in its instruction, but Ligia was already used to it. He had no idea what a luminous pearl could possibly have to do with him, a fish. The system had previously explained that side quests could only be activated after the corresponding prerequisites had been fulfilled. Seeing how this side quest became active while Prince Jing was taking him to Qianqing Palace, it must have something to do with the Emperor. So it didn't seem like he'd need to make any detours. Despite being royalty, Prince Jing didn't like to ride in a palanquin, holding the little carp while Wang Xi trailed behind him. He made his way to Qianqing Palace at a leisurely stroll. The head eunuch, Luo Risheng, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, had already been waiting in front of the doors to Qianqing Palace for some time, and as soon as he saw Prince Jing, He rushed forward to greet him, bowed, and escorted him inside. Wangxi couldn't go in, so all he could do was wait anxiously outside the palace. They had finally arrived. Liu swam to the water's surface, taking in the view of Tianjin Palace. As expected of the emperor's quarters, it was a majestic and extravagant structure, filled with all sorts of rare and precious furnishings. The scents of sandalwood wafted by. Liu was utterly mesmerized. As magnificent as the room was, though, there was no fish tank in sight. Liu much preferred the quarters with the porcelain fish tank. It was only because of this excursion that he discovered Prince Jing was keeping him in Din Tai Hall. Even after the title of prince was bestowed on him and he left the palace, Jing Tai Hall, where Prince Jing had grown up, was still reserved for him. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to figure all of this out. It truly was Prince Jing's territory. Liu was quietly proud of himself for managing to get into the tyrant's lair without much effort. He scanned his surroundings, but to his dismay, he didn't spot any luminous pearls. Liu had hoped the system would give him some hints, especially since the side quest had come out of nowhere, but there hadn't been another peep from the stupid system since it announced the side quest. Liu had to set both the main and side quests aside for the time being. Without any needs, all he could do was leave it up to fate. Seeing the Emperor was more important right now. In the book, the Emperor had quite a backstory with Prince Jing. In the original story, Prince Jing's mother, Emperor Xiaohe, had already been ill in health before she given birth to the prince. After he was born, she couldn't bear the fact that her son was mute, and so she passed away shortly afterwards. The emperor deeply loved and respected Empress Xiaohe. I think it's Xiaohe. So his feelings for his son had always been complicated, and he never grew very close to him. This was especially clear after Prince Jing turned 16, when the emperor ordered him to move out of the palace and into his own manor. All the other princes had only received their respective manors after they were married, but it didn't seem to matter to the emperor that Prince Jing remained unmarried to this day. As such, many people believed Prince Jing was unwanted and unloved. Damn, that's heavy. Just a prince casually strolling through the palace with his emotional support fish in a large bowl, no big deal. I'm still worried over the fact that it's technically a soup bowl and the false expectations that might create. Okay, we have a very interesting illustration here that I quickly want to share with you guys. Look at that. It's kind of, I don't know why, but it reminds me of overly sarcastic productions illustrations that they did for their Journey to the West series. That is oddly specific, sorry. Low emotional support. Prince Jing remained unmarried to this day. As such, many people believed Prince Jing was unwanted and unloved. Liu was not one of those many people. The reason the emperor was so distant from Prince Jing wasn't because he didn't care for him, but because he sought to protect him. As Empress Xiaohe's son, Prince Jing had a much higher status than most, but no matter how noble he was, his muteness prevented him from inheriting the throne. Although the emperor had no desire to foster a close relationship with Prince Jing due to his wife's death, this was still his cherished wife's flesh and blood. Ordering him to move into his own manor early was the emperor's way of protecting his son. Ultimately, the emperor hoped the son would be able to live a peaceful life. That is a first. It feels like we don't often get an emperor who is emotionally cognizant enough to not blame their child for the death of their wife or like their consort or whatever role the mother might have had before she died giving birth, which happens weirdly often in these. Okay. Hmm. All else aside, Prince Jing wasn't really the tolerant type. When he was a child and the other young princes taunted him for being mute, Prince Jing would just roll up his sleeves and beat them up. Serves them right. After the emperor found out, everyone was punished, but he also privately warned the other princes to be kinder to Prince Jing. With Prince Jing's inability to speak, his education was a challenge too, but the emperor specially appointed a strict teacher who had experience teaching mute and deaf students. The emperor never voiced his love for Prince Jing, but his actions spoke for him. Liu, therefore, was not at all worried about this trip. In the main hall of Chen Qing Palace, the emperor sat on the throne carved with intricate flying dragons, draped in bright yellow imperial robes. He nodded slightly when Prince Jing answered. Tianqi, you've arrived. Prince Jing set the large bowl that held the little carp on a small table off to the side and bowed seriously. The emperor beckoned him to stand back up, smiling, as he looked at his son from a distance. He noted that Prince Jing was just as cold and quiet as always. Naturally, the emperor's gaze fell on the large bowl Prince Jing had brought. In the emperor's experience, bowls generally held soup. If someone came into Chen Palace with a bowl, they were usually there to present soup to him. Assuming that Prince Jing knew what he had done wrong and had brought an offering of soup to apologize, the emperor chuckled. How considerate of you. Do we know? Oh, I forgot that he is probably gonna get scolded for being angry with the cat. The emperor sounds like a decent guy, to be honest. Yeah, like he does, which is making me a little bit weary, but we'll see how it goes. The misunderstood Prince Jing wasn't sure how to respond. Of his sons, the emperor rarely tried to get close to this one. He felt his heart warming at the sight of the prince trying to please him. Oh no. He immediately ordered Liu Sheng to bring forward the prince's soup. Prince Jing couldn't speak. There was nothing he could do to stop Luo Gonggong in time, and the head eunuch nimbly picked up the large bowl before he could make his objection clear. Another eunuch waiting on the side handed over a silver needle. What? A needle? At first glance, the soup looked like a goji fish soup. Needle in hand, Lo Gong was about to test it for poison like he. Oh, damn, okay. I mean, fair thought process, but our poor fish. Like usual, when he made eye contact with the very lively little carp that had poked its head out of the water to watch all the commotion. Luo Gonggong was so alarmed that he nearly dropped the bowl. Ayo, Prince Jing, what did you bring? Equally startled by Luo Gonggong's sudden appearance, Yi immediately sank to the bottom of the bowl. It's alive! Luo Gonggong realized with a start. This wasn't fish soup. What exactly did Prince Jing bring? The emperor was too far away to see, but Luo Gonggong's exclamation had made him curious. While Luo Gonggong struggled to think of how to answer, Prince Jing got up, approached Luo Gonggong, and took the bowl back, all without saying a single word. The fact that the narrative specifies that when we know that he is mute, so therefore he is unlikely to say a single word in the near future. Oh, goodness. I don't want to say never, because you never know how these things work out, but it's definitely unlikely at the moment. Um. I lost my place again. The emperor looked on in befuddlement. Prince Jing proceeded to bring the large bowl before the emperor himself, but he didn't look like he had any intention of handing it over. His hands remained clamped around the bowl. The large bowl, with its water-rippling patterns, held a large volume of water. Swimming inside it was a small palm-sized carp. The emperor paused. Prince Jing, what is the meaning of this? Wu Tianqi smiled as he reached a finger into the water, swirling it gently. Liu had managed to steal a glance at the emperor from within the water and saw a middle-aged man with a square face and a short moustache. It was fortunate that Prince Jing's other features were more like the emperor's Shao Hui's. Oh my goodness, not this man roasting the poor emperor just from his bowl. Um, Liu thought, and that he only shared his eyes with his father. If he looked more like the emperor, it would have been a blow to his good looks. Perhaps because he'd sensed Leo's criticism, the prince suddenly dipped his hand into the water. Leo was at a loss for what to do. He realized after a few seconds that the prince was playing with him, but they were standing before the emperor right now. What was the prince trying to do? Ever since Prince Jing had switched out his bowl, Leo knew the prince wasn't planning to give him to the emperor. When it came to presenting gifts to the emperor, looks were paramount. Of course, a small, dainty jade bowl would be more suitable to the ruler's tastes, but the prince had passed on the jade bowl. It was clear he had no plans on using him to try and please the emperor. In that case, why did the prince bring him to see the emperor? Why play with him in front of him? Oh well, who cared? If the master wanted to play with his pet, it was the pet's duty to respond. You keep telling yourself that. Leo shoved down his embarrassment. This wasn't the first or second time he had to act cute for Prince Jing. He swam, stopping in between the prince's fingers. After hesitating for a moment, Leo nuzzled his fish mouth against Prince Jing's finger affectionately. Oh my goodness. Whoa. There was the smell of fish food, the mouth-watering red kind. His movements were initially a little stiff, but as time went on, he began willingly chasing after the other man's finger. Oh my goodness. Oh, the second-hand embarrassment I'm feeling right now. Over a fish. My goodness, these are words I never thought I'd say. As Prince Jing looked down at the little carp swimming happily in the bowl, a light shone faintly in his eyes. The emperor almost thought he was seeing things. Prince Jing had always been cold and harsh, keeping his emotions under tight lock and key, and yet here he was, playing with the fish in a way that could only be described as gentle. In the past, concerned that Prince Jing was too unsociable, the emperor had tried sending many cats and dogs to his son in the hope of providing him with a companion. But the prince never even spared them a single glance, never mind accepting one of them. At the time, the emperor thought the prince perhaps simply disliked pets, but now, for some reason, the Prince Jing, who didn't like pets, was making an exception for a fish, of all things. Dazed, the emperor considered the different possibilities. After a while, and with great difficulty, he opened his mouth. Do you mean to say that you've started to take care of this fish? Wu Tianqi nodded slightly. Prince Jing had actually decided to raise a pet fish. The emperor was flabbergasted. It wasn't a bad thing, since the son of his seemed to be finally demonstrating some human feelings. But this fish, it wasn't even a precious, auspicious koi. It was just a little run-of-the-mill carp. It looked like the kind that usually made it into the soup. It almost did. Prince Jing's tastes sure were something. At this point, the emperor had already forgotten why he had summoned the prince. A pet fish, he said with a twitch of his lips, sounding a little forced. Not bad. Leo watched Prince Jing nod and felt a little like a pony had trotted proudly across his heart. Although Wang Gonggong and even Leo himself had long since accepted that he was Prince Jing's pet, this was the first time the prince was acknowledging it himself. Did the prince bring him here for the sole purpose of announcing Leo as his pet in front of the emperor? Why is that so endearing? My goodness. What a high profile and distinguished pet he was. This is giving Diana Wynne Jones and I cannot explain why. Leah was floating on cloud nine. The point of the main quest, Priceless Pet Fish, was for him to become Prince Jing's pet fish, after all, and now the prince had straight up announced he was his pet in front of the emperor. Didn't that mean the main quest was complete? But there was no prompt congratulating him on completing the task. Apparently, a concise concession from Prince Jing wasn't enough for the stupid system. He still had to press on until he succeeded at getting along with the prince. A eunuch rushed over in announcing that the noble consort and the second prince were outside, requesting an audience. This was when the emperor remembered why he had summoned Prince Jing. He gave the prince a meaningful look, but he was so busy playing with his fish that he didn't react. The emperor sighed lightly. Let them in. My goodness, why is this so funny? Okay, we are on to chapter 8. I just quickly want to grab something to drink. Has the book said why he was mute? Was he born mute? I do think they mentioned him being born mute, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, they just mentioned it. Why you see, father? I have been trying to a new sushi recipe, and the fish needs to be fresh as possible. Oh, that feels grim. Leo's giving serious golden retriever energy. I think he's as golden retriever as a fish can be, to be fair. Okay. Next chapter. We'll see how far we get before the 10-minute break. Chapter 8. The fish is angry. Oh goodness. That is not good. Leo was right next to Prince Jing. When he heard that the noble consort was coming, he wanted to take a look at her. Having already seen the emperor, who looked roughly the same as the description in the book, Leo also wanted to see what the woman who dared provoke a tyrant looked like. Except his current position was a little off to the side, and his view was blocked. Leo kept swimming back and forth, straining to peek, but to no avail. Just when he was about to give up and resort to eavesdropping, Prince Jing, who had been observing him for a while, moved the bowl so that it was facing the entrance to the palace perfectly. My goodness, this man's already reading the fish's body language as if it's nothing. Leo was startled. A coincidence? Did the prince somehow notice him trying to look at the noble consort? Prince Jing had demonstrated a considerable aptitude for pet fish care so far, but there was no way he could be this attentive, right? Perhaps he just felt like moving the bowl. No big deal. Leo quickly convinced himself not to get caught up in pointless speculation. Since he had a clearer view now, he was going to look his full. Before long, a graceful woman draped in imperial robes walked into view, surrounded by attendants and servants, and leading a tall youth. Noble Consort's hair was heavy with pearls and jade. Oh, there's a potential pearl for you to retrieve somehow. Maybe one will fall into a bowl. Crab apple blossoms in full bloom were embroidered around the hem of her light purple robes. With skin brighter than snow, she was beautiful beyond compare, and it was obvious the noble consort knew how to take care of herself. If it wasn't for the tall second prince trailing behind her, with eyes that looked rather like hers, it would have been very difficult to discern that she was already at least 30. Leah sighed dreamily. It was no wonder such a beauty was the most favoured concubine in recent years. According to the book, noble Consort was at the peak of her life at this point in the story. The emperor had already privately let her know that he was planning on making her son, the second prince, Mu Tianzhao, the crown prince. The emperor, like many emperors of the past, wished for his mm, wished for his Di son to inherit the throne. Years ago, he'd made his first son, Empress Xiaohua's son, the crown prince, only for the boy to tragically pass away at age 7. Oh, the emperor and empress grieved for years until Empress Xiaohua gave. I keep wanting to say Hua or like actually saying Hua when it's here. Oh, he. Oh, no, it's Hui. That's even worse. Oh my goodness. Gave birth to the fourth prince. The emperor once again had thoughts of making him the crown prince, but unfortunately the prince was not so blessed. He suffered a cold at 2 years old and unexpectedly passed away at an even younger age. One after another, Emperor here suffered the loss of her sons. Despite how fragile her health had become, she was determined to give birth to the fifth prince, Prince Jing, regardless of how reckless it might be. But the heavens decided to play a cruel joke on the emperor and empress, and both of them received a great shock when they realized the young Di-san was born mute. Okay, Di-san is a son born from the Di-wife. The Di-wife is considered the official wife of the man. Okay, that is interesting context. And like on the one hand, I understand that health being what it was in that time was a lot more volatile, and also like giving birth wasn't easy or anything like that. But it does feel a little bit suspicious that all of her sons happened to pass away. I kind of would not be surprised to find out if one of the consorts maybe had something to do with it. But we shall see. Also, we have another illustration that is beautiful before I turn the page. Sorry, I forgot to show it. There we go. It is absolutely stunning, which is sad because I feel like I'm probably not going to end up liking the consort if she ends up being the kind of consort that we typically see with these situations. After Emperor Shahir's After Emperor Shahir passed away, the emperor felt his fate must not be aligned with his sons, so he never mentioned making anyone the crown prince again. But now, after 20 years, there was finally some movement from the emperor. A noble consort cheer could not be more ecstatic. Oh goodness. Although the emperor's favor towards her was as clear as day, he never showed any hint of granting her the title of empress. But so what? As long as her son, the second son, was named crown prince and ascended the throne, it made no difference if she was empress or not. The noble consort thought her suffering had finally come to an end. She even seemed to walk with a spring in her step. Oh, this is not going to go well. Yeah, I have to say the art is one of the best perks to have in these books, and I love that they do it for all of them. Um, Imperial Chinese harems are scary. Yeah, and like it's very interesting because this does highlight why they sometimes quote unquote felt the need to have so many children. But then on the other hand, all the infighting that you kind of see being prevalent in these historical Chinese dramas, you kind of wonder how many of them would have survived if there hadn't been other people there to scheme. Um, I think it's a bit of a catch-22 in that sense. Once Lady Cheer had greeted the emperor along with the second prince, the emperor asked her to approach. As he intended to pronounce the second prince as the crown prince, he had to offer her this respect. The noble consort smiled daintily and sat down next to the emperor. She glanced down at Prince Jing, her expression victorious. So what if he was the son of the empress? So what if he was born more noble than her son, the second prince? Prince Jing would still need to bow his head to the crown prince, the future emperor. She and the second prince shared a knowing smile, but Prince Jing didn't make any indication that he noticed. Prince Jing's gaze never strayed from the little carp. His finger was still submerged in the water, playing with the fish's smooth back every now and then. Liu was getting a little annoyed with all the touching. Hey, you're being too rough. A fish can't take it. Liu evaded his hand, glaring fiercely at Prince Jing. When Prince Jing found his finger fishless, his dark, unblinking stare lingered pointedly on the little carp. The temperature in the air around them suddenly plummeted. Was the tyrant angry because Liu wouldn't let him squeeze him? Fine, whatever. Good fish didn't fight with humans, especially not their owners. He knew Prince Jing was probably upset at the sight of noble Consort sitting next to the emperor. What child would be happy seeing another woman take his mother's place? Lady Chia was full of smiles, but her smile held an edge of provocation. She was clearly showing off. Prince Jing was oblivious in his bad mood. Oh, sorry, not oblivious. Exactly the opposite, actually. Prince Jing was obviously in a bad mood. Liu decided he had a good reason for using him as a stress ball. No, he's just playing with you, actually. Um, and now I can't find the stress ball part of this. Oh, he leaned back in, nuzzling against Prince Jing's finger, hoping to make him feel better. I'll let you squish me, but don't be so rough, okay? Prince Jing pursed his lips at the way the fish was clearly trying to please him and continued to squeeze the fish's back. My goodness, this poor fish. Liu endured it in silence. If he felt that Prince Jing was truly being too rough and he couldn't take it anymore, he would dart to the side with a swing of his tail. But a little while later, he would always swim back, allowing Prince Jing to use him as an outlet for his anger. The little carp didn't seem to hate his touch, Prince Jing noted. But why did it keep shying away and then coming back? Was he handling the fish too harshly? He wondered. The prince's touch became then gentler. We love a self-reflective king or future emperor. Appreciated, thank you. Liu instantly felt better. Who knew having his back squeezed like this could feel this nice? It was even a little ticklish. Liu curled his tail around the prince's finger to show that he liked it. Prince Jing realized that the little carp wasn't that hard to understand after all. Fish and human were absorbed in their own little world. They didn't care how they might look to anyone else. Look at us. Let me see what's. Okay, yeah, she's on my not nice list. Oh goodness. I especially like the art we got in Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation. Honestly, all the art has been spectacular. I haven't yet seen any disappointing art. Like I don't have a lot of um, meat bun stories to compare to yet, but I feel like MXTX has a lot of beautiful drawings in all of her stories. I do favor Grandmaster and Heaven Officials though, just because of how attached I am to those stories. Scum Villain I'm least attached to because I've only experienced one medium of it and it's relatively new to me. Okay, sorry, I sidetracked here. Having already seen Prince Jing like this, The emperor watched the prince with the little carp with rapt attention. He never knew his cold-hearted and disciplined son could play with a fish. Meanwhile, noble Consort Chia's smile was frozen on her face. Prince Jing had managed to humiliate her without saying a single word. "What's the matter with Prince Jing?" she asked, trying to get the emperor to notice the prince's rudeness. There was a smile warming the emperor's face as he said, "Noble Consort, Prince Jing has started caring for a fish recently. What do you think?" My goodness. Of course, Lady Xue didn't think it was any good at all. She had come here with a goal, and she wasn't going to sit back and watch a drab, grey fish disrupt her plans. If the Emperor was acting like this, he must have forgotten what she told him earlier and was feeling soft towards Prince Jing. But the noble consort had come prepared. She tossed a glance at one of her trusted servants waiting on the side. The servant immediately left, then quickly returned with a snowy white ball in her arms. Lady Xue delightedly hugged the snowy white ball to her chest and smoothed its fur. She said gently, "Has the Emperor forgotten about my Piao Xue after seeing Prince Jing's fish?" By now, the Emperor had also remembered why he had summoned Prince Jing. He chuckled, rubbing his nose. The snowy white cat slowly raised its head and let out a mew. It was clearly, sorry, not a mew, a meow. It was clearly conspiring with its owner. Li Ye, who'd been playing with Prince Jing, heard the meow and was so alarmed that all his fins stood on end. Did Qian Qing Palace also have a cat? It's the same cat. Focus, Li Ye. Carefully, Li Ye swam to the surface of the water to see what was going on. And there it was, nestled in the noble consort's arms. The snow-white cat's sapphire eyes honed in on him immediately. That shape, that sound, wasn't that his greatest enemy? My goodness. With a shudder, Li Ye immediately dove down to the bottom of the water, but it was too late. As soon as the large white cat laid eyes on him, it let out an excited yowl, scrambling out of the noble consort's arms, and shot towards him like an arrow. "Save me! The cat wants to eat a fish!" He had thought that if he ever came face to face with his arch enemy again, he'd be able to find some escape route, or, if worse came to worse, he'd slap the cat in the face with his tail. It wasn't until he was in front of the cat for real that he realized its teeth had left a serious mark on his instincts. Just the memory of that bite was enough to make him tremble. Trapped in the bowl, Li Ye had nowhere to escape to, leaving him with no choice but to curl into a ball beneath Prince Jing's hand. He prayed the large white cat wouldn't see him, but he knew he was fooling himself. The cat wasted no time in pouncing, and it showed no fear of water as it opened its mouth to snap up the fish. Just as it seemed as though Li Ye was going to end up in the cat's mouth, Prince Jing held the curled-up little carp in his hand closer to him. The cat bit down on empty water. Meow? Confused, the white cat looked up and saw a face that it would never forget. Meow! Suddenly the cat felt like all hope was lost. Prince Jing's face was as icy as frost. Oh my word, that rhymed. Okay, sorry. With a flick of his fingers, the white cat was flung off, barreling in servant who had brought it. My goodness. Well, at least this is going to demonstrate for the Emperor why the previous incidents might have occurred, even though it's technically not the correct conclusion to draw. It can at least explain to him why Prince Jing was not happy with the cat. Oh, was the cat trying to get to your new pet fish and you scared it off, and that's why it got upset and went back to the consort or something like that. This is true as a cat owner. Oh goodness, I have to say I'm so glad we didn't have fish or birds that could be easily accessed when we had a cat. That is always good. I don't know that I would have been able to handle the stress. Okay, I'm gonna take my 10-minute break now, so we'll be back at like 10 past, 11 past, and then we are continuing until the end of the next hour. Okay, we are back. Let's hope the audio is okay. I'm gonna try and adjust a little. That cat will be the final boss, could you imagine? For sure, nothing says terror like a fluffy Persian cat. I mean, it depends on what kind of animal you are. Hope everyone's doing okay. I bought more books to keep up with the Dalmate collection, no space to put them. That is me as well. It's kind of a problem. And we're going to Comic Con in September, and I'm hoping there will be more Danmei merch because we had our first ever Danmei merch last year's at last year's Comic Con. Actually, I don't know if I mentioned this when it happened originally, but at the convention, and this is very uncommon in my opinion, since it's South Africa and like no celebrities or people of any kind of niche communities ever in the South African sphere. Um, but like if when we went there, there was one single Danmei stall, and I went, and then I discovered that the person who was running the Danmei stall is actually the translator who did the translations for the official English translations of Heaven Official Blessing, and I got her signature, and I was very happy about that. And she has really cute art, so that was really cool. But anyway, sorry, I totally got distracted now. I'll send you pictures of my Dunway bookshelf because I have all of Modazushi in English and German. Oh my goodness, who's slightly tempted by the hardcover Heaven Official's Blessing? Because I am. Okay, let's get started. Sorry. We are at the top of page 84. The servant let out a scream of pain. The impact left the white cat dizzy, but it managed to stand back up, shaking its head fiercely. It abandoned any thought of catching the fish and rushed straight back into the noble consort's arms. From his hiding place under Prince Jing's hand, Liu Ye peeked out from the gap between the prince's fingers. Prince Jing was rolling with laughter, as expected of his tyrant master. The white cat got what it had coming again. Oh my goodness. Noble Consort was secretly delighted at seeing Prince Jing raise a hand right in front of the Emperor. She bent down to pick up her white cat, which was still howling pitifully, and made a show of examining it again. She pretended to be distressed as she scolded, Piao Xue, you terrible thing. Haven't you learned from the last time? Why did you have to provoke Prince Jing? Do you not take me seriously? All of Li's happiness evaporated at her words. He was so furious that if he had a foot, he would have stamped it. I'm assuming they meant stomped, but anyway, maybe that's the way it's written and not the way it's pronounced. I'm sorry. Um, I would have loved to buy the hardcovers if they had released them at the same time as the yeah, that's always what frustrates me is I want to know my options before I make the first purchase. Don't come with better options later on when I've already spent the money. um where are we? Oh, while the noble consort seemed to be reprimanding her cat, in reality she was playing one of her little games. She was reminding the emperor that this wasn't the first time Prince Jing had taught her beloved pet a lesson, and that he didn't treat her with the respect she deserved, as the noble consort and as his Shu mother. Okay, but Why is your pet more special than Prince Jing's pet? That's my question. After Lady Cheer spoke, of course, the second prince, Mu Tianshao, piped up in support. My brother, the fifth prince, is just being a little mischievous. He didn't mean any harm. Royal father, mother, please don't blame him. Liu's eyes rolled back in his head. He blew out a huge bubble with a pop and turned his tail disdainfully towards the second prince. The second prince's voice was mild, but underneath the gentle veneer was a ruthless countenance, even more so than the noble consort's. While the noble consort played her little games, the second prince was practically accepting Prince Jing's guilt for him by saying he had no ill intentions, as though afraid the emperor couldn't reach that conclusion on his own. Mm-hmm. The evil cannon fodder. Oh goodness. Despite knowing Prince Jing would eventually inherit the throne, and Mu Tianzhao and the noble consort would both meet grisly ends, Liu Ye couldn't help but feel a little anxious. This mother-son duo was teaming up and taking advantage of the fact that Prince Jing couldn't speak, especially since Prince Jing didn't even have Wang Xi Gong with him this time. Prince Jing had saved him so many times now, Liu Ye couldn't sit idly by and watch them bully him. But what could he, a fish stuck in a bowl, do to the noble consort and her son, who were like the sun shining brightly in the middle of the sky? Leo was so indignant, his cheeks puffed up. He started to swim in frustrated circles in his bowl. Why is this so endearing? I love it. The noble consort and her son's actions had the desired effect. The emperor's expression darkened as he remembered the noble consort's tearful complaint from earlier. Prince Jing, I heard you threw her cat on her birthday. Is that true? That's an interesting way for her to phrase it, considering she's trying to make it seem like she's not framing him as a bad person. Like if I'm trying to genuinely keep someone out of trouble, I would not be phrasing it in that way. And I think she probably said it to him in a way that conveyed that instead of saying it in a kind way that would keep him out of trouble. Um, on the day of her birthday, the noble consort had gone crying to the emperor that Prince Jing had hurled her precious pet, Piao Shu. Now that he had witnessed Prince Jing's treatment of Pao Shu with his own two eyes, he was starting to believe the noble consort. You're not taking into consideration that you just observed the fact that he has a pet fish, and said pet fish was just threatened by the consort's pet, and somehow her pet is more precious than the son who struggles to bond with anything ever's pet. Is that? I need to calm down. It's just a fish. It's just a fish. But also, it's not just a fish. Okay, sorry. Not that the emperor had any affection for the cat, it was merely a pet. Who cared if Prince Jing wants to hit it or kill it? Oh my goodness, and I was just liking you like 2 seconds ago. Um, Privately, the emperor didn't think it was much of a concern, but the situation involved the noble consort, who was, after all, Prince Jing's Shu mother. Behind her was the second prince, who was also the emperor's choice for crown prince. The emperor didn't want there to be any bad blood between them, Prince Jing and the future crown prince, which was why he had summoned Prince Jing in the first place. He wanted to get to the bottom of the situation and give the noble consort an explanation appropriate enough to appease her. So he decided to take away his own son's voice, aka Wang Xi. That makes sense, right? It makes total sense. But Prince Jing gave the noble consort a fleeting, cold glance and made no move to explain. He continued to play with his little carp, eyes lowered. For some reason, though, this little fish's cheeks were puffed out. It was especially obvious when noble consort Xie spoke, almost as if he was angry. Prince Jing was rather amused. Could this fish see through the noble consort's and her son's trickery too? So you're aware, and yet you're just letting it happen. That is also very frustrating. To be honest, yeah, no, but the emperor doesn't need to know that. But the cat did smack into his leg. Oh goodness. And the thing is, the consort also wouldn't know that the fish was only acquired after. So, for all intents and purposes, the cat attacked his pet fish. Chapter 9. The fish is belly up. Oh no, that's not good. Let's hope he's just sunbathing and that he doesn't realize that most fish only lie belly up when they're no longer with us. In the face of Prince Jing's clear indifference, the Emperor felt a little awkward. Fifth brother, our royal father is asking you a question. Yes, and he doesn't have a voice right now, so what are you on about? That's like saying, oh, why didn't you read that? Oh, you need glasses? No, but read that. Obviously, it's fine. The glasses are just for decoration. Fifth brother, our royal father is asking you a question. Mu Tianzhao reminded him, with what might have been a smile. The second prince had always been a little wary around Prince Jing because of the difference in their status. Now that he was about to become the crown prince, though, he was going to take that all back. Prince Jing looked up, but not to acknowledge the second prince. Instead, he looked at the head eunuch, Luo Risheng. Luo Risheng had been prepared ever since the emperor had ordered Prince Jing to enter Qianjing Palace alone. At Prince Jing's glance, Luo Gonggong ordered a few servants to bring the necessary ink and paper before him. Okay, at least they're giving him that. It might be a bit inconvenient, but even if he couldn't speak, he could still write. Prince Jing accepted the brush with his right hand, his left still playing with the fish. He didn't even look at what he was doing. He just wrote a couple of strokes and tossed the brush away. Not daring to look at what the prince had written, Luo Risheng brought the prince's writing up to the emperor, his head lowered. When the emperor's gaze fell on the strong, powerful strokes that made up the vigorous characters, he couldn't help feeling a pang of sadness in his heart. But this was not the time to admire the prince's calligraphy. The only thing the prince had written was, "It deserved it." So he's one of those, is he? One of those where, like, you could clear things up by just explaining. But you're not going to. You're gonna make it deliberately difficult for us. Oh, goodness. For as long as the emperor could remember, the prince had never once lied. This was the reason the emperor had decided to summon him, to question him directly. Back when Prince Jing had punched the other princes, he never tried to hide what he'd done, so the emperor didn't think he would deceive him in this instance. Since the prince said the cat deserved it, then something must have happened that he didn't know about. He couldn't be too hasty. Thank you for actually taking your son at his word. That is impressive. I mean, it could backfire in the sense that he might take everyone at their word, but at least it's not excluding his son. The emperor's expression darkened, and he looked towards the head eunuch Luo Rusheng. Go find out who else saw what happened that day. Noble consort Xie's face twisted, betraying her panic. She'd spent so much time preparing for this moment that now the emperor was doubting her just because of a couple of random words from Prince Jing. Oh, and because she didn't see what the words were, she can't come up with a lie that will cover for it because she doesn't know what he said in the letter. That's delicious. Okay. Um, but as the noble consort dabbed at the corners of her mouth with the silk handkerchief embroidered with crab apple blossoms, her somewhat ferocious expression settled back into its beautiful facade. So what if the Emperor investigated? There wasn't a shadow of a doubt that Prince Jing abused the cat, not to mention she even had an eyewitness. It would be good if Prince Jing admitted it, but it would be even better if he made a fuss and refused to confess. Shaolinzi was quickly brought over from the imperial kitchen. The Emperor decided to carry out the questioning himself, since the matter involved his son, Prince Jing. Shaolinzi knelt there, his voice quivering as he recounted everything he saw that day. The servant saw, as soon as Prince Jing saw the noble consort's cat, he grabbed it. You dare to lie? Oh, ooh. If you'd be willing to lie about that, like, cause that you're really out here hedging all your bets on the fact that your lie isn't gonna be exposed, and siding with the consort in the hope that that's the winning side. That is not the best thing to do. In this case, it's always best to just tell the truth, I feel. But, what do I know? I don't do court politics. Mm. Of course, noble consort Xie was at least 2 steps ahead, having ordered her trusted servants to bribe Xiao Linze before she even came to stand before the emperor. She knew the witness would be on her side. Your imperial majesty, it seems I didn't misunderstand the situation. Shouldn't Prince Jing give me an explanation? She smiled. Prince Jing, do you have anything to say? Was this what all his questions had come to? The emperor rubbed his brow. He was getting a little tired. A ruthless light flashed in Prince Jing's eyes. Noble Consort Xie must have gotten her claws into Shaolin's, distorting the truth. He originally wanted to request the Emperor should summon a guard who'd been working at the time for questioning. He doubted Shaolin's was the only eyewitness in such a large palace, but after considering the matter carefully, he quickly lost all desire to do so. It didn't matter if there was an eyewitness present that day or not. Each side would have their own version of what happened. The situation wouldn't change. Why go through all the hassle? No, he'd be better off going straight for Shaoling's throat. It was unlikely this person would stick to his story under the threat of having his throat sliced open. Okay, I mean, I don't think he's wrong in that, but also, technically, unless my memory is deceiving me, Wang Xi was one of the people present, wasn't he? So, that being the case, you're directly removing a witness from being able to testify by not having him accompany Prince Jing. Yeah, no, very expendable, unfortunately. Mm. It would be the quickest and most effective way to force him to tell the truth. Don't do it. Liu Ye was extremely worried. He had a pretty good guess as to what Prince Jing's next move would be. Having read the original book, Prince Jing would be walking straight into the noble consul's trap if he got violent in front of the emperor, further souring his relationship with his royal father. But if he didn't resort to violence, what else could Prince Jing do? Oh, hmm. I mean, technically, I guess that could be true, and there's no way to prove that Charlene's is technically biased to the consort. So the noble consort had clearly come prepared. First, she had managed to convince the emperor to prevent Wang Shi from accompanying Prince Jing, effectively taking away the prince's voice. Now she provided an eyewitness who was extremely unfavorable towards Prince Jing. The prince was out of options. Aside from Xiaolin, the only ones who was present at the time were the cat and Li Ye. With Xiaolin deep in noble Consort's pocket, there was no way he'd speak the truth. Who was left to be Prince Jing's witness? That cat? Was there perhaps other evidence? Without realizing it, Li Ye had drifted to the bottom of the bowl. He'd forgotten to even keep swimming, trying his hardest to remember how the white cat had run into Prince Jing. An image came to him. When he'd peeked at Prince Jing changing, he'd caught sight of what looked like a bruise on his leg. He'd been so embarrassed at the time that he didn't take a good look, and what he did see had been too brief. Besides, it wasn't out of the ordinary for a man to have some bumps and bruises on his body, so Li Ye didn't think much of it. But he remembered the bruise had been right on his shin, around the same height as the cat. My goodness, how hard did that cat run into him? Magikarp to the rescue. Oh my goodness, that sounds like an anime. Was that Piao Xue's doing? It was possible. If it were true, then it could prove that the cat had attacked Prince Jing, and he had just cause for punishing it. Li Ye felt a rush of excitement at the thought of being able to clear Prince Jing's name, but now came the hard part. How could he let the prince know about his epiphany? He couldn't speak, so he had to get inventive. Desperately, he concentrated all his energy on his tail and mustered up all the strength he had to swing it. His fish tail came smacking down with a splash. Almost half of the water of the bowl sloshed out. In the silent, changing palace, so quiet you could hear a pin drop, the sound of the water splashing onto the golden tiles was downright cacophonious. The emperor's eyes darted to the fish. Prince Jing, what's wrong with your fish? He asked, baffled. Prince Jing had been staring daggers at Xiaolin. His glower was enough to convey his thoughts. You're a dead man. But, at the low carp's sudden movement, he turned to look at the fish, where it waited expectantly for him. Closer, closer, now! A quick and accurate swish of his tail, and Li Ye splashed all the remaining water in the bowl at Prince Jing. Prince Jing had rolled up his sleeves to keep himself dry while he played with the fish, but in just a split second his face, chest, and robes were completely soaked, with his pants as the biggest casualty. There we go. I know how to words sometimes, apparently. I have to go. I'll watch the replay. Bye, thanks for stopping by, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of the replay. Okay, we still have a decent amount of time left. Let's see. Jing said nothing, but his expression was like a dark storm cloud as he wiped at the water dripping down his face. Li Ye zipped to the bottom of the bowl to hide, too terrified to look at Prince Jing. Sob, sob, sob. The tyrant looked ready to explode, but he had no other choice. Plus, he didn't know it would get this wet. Would the tyrant deal with him first, then Xiaolin, before going to change his clothes? Prince Jing was reaching towards him. Leo squeezed his eyes shut. Was this tyrant about to kill a fish? But after waiting with bated breath, all Leo felt was a light tap on his head, followed by a touch on his back. He was dumbfounded. Prince Jing glared at the troublemaking little cop before getting up and bowing to the emperor. The emperor understood and said, "You may change quickly. We'll continue this once you return." Wang Xi had been standing just outside, waiting anxiously. As soon as he saw this window of opportunity, he rushed in with a set of dry clothes for Prince Jing and slipped into the side hall to help him change. Li Ye let out a sigh of relief. "No, but what about the bruise?" Now he won't have a reason to show his leg or anything like that. I don't know what I was expecting, but this is not going as I was expecting. That was good. Mm. Thank goodness Prince Jing didn't lose his temper. He had intentionally splashed water on Prince Jing's pants in the hopes that the prince would see the bruise on his leg when he changed and think to use it as proof. But it was fine even if the prince never saw it, because Li Ye had still managed to buy the prince some time to cool down. In addition, now that Longxi was here, there was someone who could protect and speak for Prince Jing. Together, the prince and Wang Gonggong should be able to come up with a strategy to deal with the noble consort. If worse came to worse, and they were forced to concede this particular conflict to the noble consort, the emperor would, at most, ask Prince Jing to apologize to her. He wouldn't actually punish the prince. It would leave the noble consort and her son feeling smug for a while, but Prince Jing could always get his revenge later. As he waited for Prince Jing to finish changing, Li Ye swished his tail happily at how well everything had played out. Lady Chia eyed the fish Prince Jing had brought. For years, she'd held a mixture of hatred and envy for Prince Jing in her heart. Prince Jing might not be present in the room right now, but she wasn't going to let him go unscathed. She stood up, sauntered over, and peered down with interest at the fish in the bowl. Something seemed to occur to her as she let out a light peal of laughter. Mutian Zhao had followed her over. He chuckled. Mother, what is this fish? I've never seen the likes of it before. You've probably eaten it before. What are you on about? He and his mother both had that kind of attitude to things they considered beneath them, so this really was the first time Mu Tianzhao had ever seen a live carp. The noble consort pursed her lips, then laughed daintily. My son is of royal blood. How could you be expected to recognize such a crude thing? It's nothing but the most ordinary fish used for cooking. Her lips twitched up in a smile. My brother's taste is certainly quite unique. Perhaps I should ask our royal father to gift him some fish with a little more value. Their words of admiration were thinly veiled barbs aimed right at Prince Jing. Leah halted directly underneath the two of them, not even bothering to hide the fact that he was openly listening to them, utterly disgusted by their words. How dare they insult his owner and say he had no taste? That was the same as insulting him. I mean, just be glad he doesn't have a taste for fish like you, because otherwise you would not be alive. That was the same as insulting him. They even had the audacity to say he was crude. Not even the emperor had gone that far. I kind of wish the emperor would look at this and kind of interpret this interaction just a little bit as oh, you expect my son to treat your pet as precious, but you're not treating his as anything but a crude living thing that's beneath you. I don't know. Mm. Leo flicked the water angrily. He had to do something. No, that's just gonna get Prince Jing in more trouble, even though, logically, you wouldn't be able to blame the fish for something like that. All of Lady Chia's attention was on the little carp as she came closer. She'd never seen such a lively fish before. But of course, she could never have guessed that when it had splashed water all over Prince Jing just now, it had done it on purpose. After all, it was just an ordinary fish. But this fish had more guts than the noble consort could ever imagine. As she peered down at him, Leah was preparing himself to give her a face full of water. He'd already drenched Prince Jing. There was no way he was going to show any mercy to cannon fodder. Oh no. But as the noble consort approached, a flash of light caught Leah's eyes, and he noticed a golden phoenix hairpin by her forehead. Held delicately within the beak of the phoenix was a large, sparkling pearl about the size of a person's thumbnail. Could you jump out of your bowl and like acquire it in some way, or is that too hoping for too much? Leo felt his stomach drop. He had a bad feeling about this. That couldn't be. I have no idea how to pronounce this word. Euphonious? That is not the way to pronounce that. I'm just gonna go with infamous because I think that's relatively the same meaning for this word, but I don't know how to pronounce that. The infamous pearl from his side quest, clear bright pearl, right? The system, which had been silent for a long time, replied lightly, "User, you got it right." Great. Leo was stunned. Stupid system. Can you get any more annoying? How was a fish supposed to retrieve a pearl from the forehead of the Emperor's beloved concubine? Splashing her was out of the question for now. The noble consort was still a little too far away. He had to get her to come a little closer first. Leo readied his fishtail. He was going to strike back for the pearl, for Prince Jing. As for how, the noble consort was very calculating in the book, which meant that she was also very suspicious. Any idea started to take from an idea started to take form inside Leah's head. If you wanted to deal with these kinds of dirty tricks, you had to fight dirty too. How did a fish flip over again? Oh no. Leo rolled over playfully, trying to rotate his belly up slowly. He floated in the water in that position without moving a muscle. It wasn't a comfortable position for a fish, but if he endured it for a little bit, he would definitely get results. The second prince was looking straight at the bowl while he spoke to noble consort Cheer. He saw it clearly when suddenly Prince Jing's fish twitched strangely, then flipped over. "Mother, what's wrong with the fish?" he blurted out. Noble Consort was still basking in her smugness, glanced over, and her heart nearly stopped. Didn't fish flip over when they died? But this fish had been so lively just a second ago. Lady Cheer hardly cared whether a fish lived or died, of course, but this was the fish Prince Jing had brought before the Emperor. The Emperor himself had been acquainted with it. But now the prince had left to change his clothes, and the two of them were the closest to the fish when it suddenly died. Who'd be able to explain that? That is a fair concern to have. Mm. Was this all part of Prince Jing's plan? She'd used Piao Xue to cause problems for him, so he was using this fish to turn the tables on her? It was very possible. It's a fish, ma'am. Like, if it wasn't technically a human in disguise, this would be a ridiculous theory. Otherwise, why would Prince Jing bring a fish to see the Emperor? He'd been waiting for the exact moment. This conspiracy theory was growing more and more likely to noble Consort Chu, who was well versed in back palace drama. As the fish floated belly up in front of her, she began to panic. I kind of low key love how dramatic she's being. It makes sense in a weird way, but I just find it so funny that she's freaking out about a fish dying because if she had control, she probably would have killed it. Oh, there's the. Okay, we are on to chapter 10. I just quickly want to take a sip of tea. I'm hoping we might be able to finish up chapter 10 as well, if all goes well. Hmm. Oh my god. This chapter title, Chapter 10, Fish Style Slap. Having been the favored concubine for several years, noble Consort Chu knew the emperor still had a soft spot for Prince Jing, which was why she harbored such great resentment for the prince. What if this incident brought the emperor's anger down on her? I would love that, but unfortunately, I don't think we're gonna get that. And in turn, on the second prince, who just when he was on the verge of becoming the crown prince. Noble Consort refused to let herself and her son suffer through such a disaster, so she came up with what she felt was an ingenious idea. Jawar, come, don't make a sound. Let's hide the fish quickly. Ma'am, this is not a good idea. Do you not think that if the fish is missing when Prince Jing comes out that it's gonna be even more suspicious? But also, how is the Emperor not noticing any of this? Like, where is his attention at? Mutian Zhao was bewildered. Lady Chua didn't want other people to get involved. Xiaoqing Palace was not her territory, and the Emperor was right there on the throne. If she asked her trusted servants to deal with this, it would only serve to attract his attention. The fewer people who knew that Prince Jing's fish had died, the better. Noble Consort and the second prince neatly blocked the bowl from onlookers' curious eyes, quietly devising a plan. First, Lady Cheer would hide the fish, then pretend to notice that the fish had vanished, triggering a search party ordered by the Emperor. While everyone was distracted, she'd have time to furtively acquire another live fish. She would then have someone find it at just the right time and place. It would be a flawless switcheroo. That is an insane plan for the sake of trying to pretend that the fish is not dead. The question is it insane enough to work? Because I think it might be. Guys, if you heard that, that was my dad sneezing. I don't know if you would have heard that, but it was quite funny. Anyway, sorry. Won't someone be able to tell? Mu Tianzhao asked with a little hesitation. His ascension to crown prince was tantalizingly close, and he didn't want anything to endanger it. What are you afraid of? Noble Consort laughed coldly. A fish like this, it's just a soup ingredient. They all look the same. Prince Jing probably won't even be able to tell the difference. I mean, he will, because one is technically a person and responds with a high IQ, while the other is not of the same IQ level, or would not be of the same IQ level. Noble Consort was brimming with confidence, convinced her plan was foolproof. Otherwise, she wouldn't have dared to come up with something like this. What else was she supposed to do? Just wait around for Prince Jing to make her life difficult? She took another glance at the flipped over fish floating on the water. They had to hide the fish well, so that no one would be able to find it. The best place would be inside her sleeve. No one would dare search the noble consort. This fish is gonna die. Like, is the pearl worth it? Technically, yes, but I feel like this was not the best plan. Suppressing the urge to hurl, Lady Cheer reached for the fish using her handkerchief. Just as she was about to touch the fish, though, the very tip of its tail, which had originally been motionless, started to shake. Then it started to struggle. Noble Consort and the second prince jumped. Stunned, Mu Tianzhao asked, Mother, wasn't that fish supposed to be dead? How could a fish come back to life? This was way too bizarre. Noble Consort didn't have time to speculate any further, nor did she have time to respond to the second prince. She wrapped the fish up in her handkerchief, but it was still very slippery, and now it was squirming around quite hard. If she let it slip out of her hand and fell onto the floor here in Tianjin Palace, right in front of the Emperor, she'd already taken the first step. There was no turning back now. The stress I'm feeling, even though technically the fish should be fine because we still have more than 300 pages to go. Sweat continued to bead on the noble consort's forehead. This woman had lived in the lap of luxury for a long time now, so she didn't have much grip strength. Furthermore, she was dealing with Liu, an expert at struggling. This time he went all out. With his newly strong tail, it didn't take much for him to escape from her grasp. It was the closest the little carp was ever going to get to Lady Cheer. By now, Liu had a lot of experience swinging his tail around. He calculated the distance and made a clean swing. His original plan was to jump onto the noble consort and give her a good scare. Then, in the ensuing chaos, he'd snatch the pearl. If that didn't work, and he ended up on the floor, he could just swing his tail a couple more times to try and get back into the bowl. The bowl was very close by. Being away from the water for such a short amount of time shouldn't be a problem. And besides, he had all that fresh water stored in his inventory. But unfortunately, he used too much force. With one flip, he'd managed to set a whole new record, landing smack dab in the middle of the consort's face. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, indeed. This is gonna be a mess. Noble Consort's vision was suddenly obstructed by something cold and slippery. Prince Jing's fish had thrown itself onto her face. She screeched in terror. Her scream instantly lit a fire under Liu. This was, after all, the first time he'd ended up on someone's body, face, as a fish. Thanks for the specification, oh my goodness. His tail flapped furiously in alarm, slapping the noble consort's face over and over. Oh my goodness, now the chapter title makes so much more sense. Oh no. The second prince didn't even know how to react. The flurry of slapping noises finally jolted him out of it, though, and he yelled in a panic, "Mother, mother, someone come quick, save my mother!" I feel like this is gonna spell certain death for our carp because I don't think you're allowed to slap the royal consort even if you are a fish. Jawar, get it off! It's on my face! It's on my face! All that shocked and terrified Lady Cheer could see were wet grey scales. She couldn't stop screaming. Wu Tianzhou wanted to help, but his hand froze midair, too afraid this fish would fly onto him next. Who knew what might happen? In the chaos, Liu found a suitable position on the noble consort's face and what a sentence! And swished his tail once again, aiming for the glistening white pearl. This time, he took a careful command of his strength to slap the golden hairpin with a pinpoint accuracy. Bingo! The pearl fell from the hairpin onto the floor just like he planned. Noble Consort Chue had put a bit of thought into choosing her hairpin, hoping to entice the emperor even when night fell with the priceless luminous pearl. But now she was panicking too hard to fret about her hair accessories. Liu flapped his fins a few times, straining to reach the fallen pearl, but it was no use. The pearl was standing between him and turning back into a human, and it was about to fall onto the golden bricks. It was all for nothing. It was all or nothing. Liu flung himself towards the jewel. Meanwhile, the emperor had been enjoying his tea while he waited for Prince Jing, when he suddenly heard the noble consorts and the second prince shouting and yelling. The emperor rushed over along with the head eunuch Liu to see what had happened, only to find the noble consort with her hair in disarray, face paper white. Her hand was flailing about, clawing at nothing, while the second prince stood off to the side in uncertainty. The emperor didn't see Liu Of course, he wouldn't notice a little carp on the ground chasing after the pearl when the consort and her son were making such a fuss. What's going on? Demanded the emperor, furious. Lear couldn't reach the luminous pearl. As it hit the floor and rolled away, he made a run for it, but it was too late. Just as he was about to reach the pearl, a pair of hands materialized from above and pressed down on his little fish body. Who was getting in the way of him completing his quest? Incensed and indignant, Lear glared up and straight at Prince Jing's face. I'm weirdly happy about this, even if all of that was for nothing. Lear could see anger simmering beneath the surface. Hell. Here he was flopping around, high of adrenaline at the prospect of completing his quest, only to get caught red handed by the tyrant. Lear blew a listless bubble. He wanted to hide and flat out deny everything, but he was in Prince Jing's palm. There was nowhere to hide. I don't think the prince is gonna think to blame you for this, at least not yet. Maybe once he knows there's more to you than just being a fish. Had Prince Jing seen him slap noble Consort and steal the pearl? He had to be in big trouble with the prince, but he wasn't playing around for no reason. Noble Consort was definitely going to report Lear to the emperor for what he just did, but so long as he returned to the bowl before the emperor noticed him, there was no way the emperor would believe her. After all, how could a fish jump out of the bowl, humiliate Lady Cheer, and then jump back in? Right, he needed to get back. It felt awful to be out of the water. He had to figure out how a way to return to the bowl without Prince Jing noticing. But that was way harder than tricking Lady Cheer had been. Prince Jing was no fool. Li had to be careful. While Li was still racking his fish brain for ideas, Prince Jing slipped him gently back into the water. Li was shocked and relieved to find himself surrounded by water in his bowl again. Wow, the tyrant actually put him back. He wiggled a bit to demonstrate his affection, but Prince Jing glared at him again. The little carp could clearly read the threat in the tyrant's eyes. I'll deal with you later. Oh my goodness, why can I picture this so clearly? Oh, sorry about that. My word. Okay, one more page and then I have to go because there's still quite a few pages of this chapter left, but I am very curious about this, so we're just gonna do one more page at least. Liu shrunk back. Wait, is that why he didn't get mad earlier? He was saving it for later? He didn't want to be fish soup, and he didn't want to die either. So Liu decided he might as well let the tyrant pinch him a few more times. He arched his back into Prince Jing's hand in an effort to wiggle his way back into the prince's good graces. Surely letting Prince Jing get a few squeezes in would get him out of trouble. Prince Jing stared, unimpressed. Your Imperial Majesty, please believe me, I don't know why Prince Jing's fish just leapt onto my face. Lady Cheer was still in shock as she knelt in front of the Emperor, weeping. She loathed Prince Jing with all her heart, so much so that she wished for his death. Did she fall into his trap? Had Prince Jing acquired a fish with the ability to resurrect itself for the sole purpose of embarrassing her in front of the Emperor? I say this in jest and not to actually diagnose anyone, but wow, that is very narcissistic. Can you imagine being like, I am so important that a fish resurrected itself in order to embarrass me? Okay. This terrifying ordeal had noble Consortia shocked out of her wits. She felt like everyone and everything was out to get her. The Emperor rubbed his temples and looked over at Prince Jing, faintly confused. Prince Jing scoffed and gestured at the bowl, placed not too far away, with his chin. He'd made sure no one was paying attention when he put the little carp back in. Since noble Consort had bribed people to slander him, he'd give her a taste of her own medicine. Let her have a turn at being unable to explain herself. Prince Jing took another glance at the intriguing little carp that had managed to create the situation for him. What divine fortune! The emperor ordered Lu Rusheng to investigate the scene, only to be informed that Prince Jing's fish was swimming happily in its bowl. This time, the emperor was irate. The noble consort is telling a bald-faced lie. Prince Jing's fish is clearly still in its bowl. This is fantastic. Lady Chue felt all the blood rush out of her head. Fury and anxiety saturated her voice. Your Imperial Majesty, it's true. That fish flew out just now. The Emperor's brows furrowed. So you're saying a fish can fly? And not only can it fly, but it flew out, harassed you, and then somehow flew back? At this point, the fish was like a trigger for noble Consort. She nodded furiously. That's exactly it. Jawar saw it too. Noble Consort, have you gone mad? The Emperor sighed, disbelief written all over his face. Lady Chue had seemed fine before, but all of a sudden she was kicking up a fuss, spewing all sort of nonsense. A fish that could fly? How was that possible? If she hadn't gone mad, why else would she be talking such nonsense, and even mess up her own hair? If you want to make up ridiculous stories, then so be it. But do you have to try to drag Jawar down with you? Wu Tianzhao had opened his mouth to corroborate his mother's account, but on hearing the Emperor's words, he shuddered again. Perfection. Glorious. Noble Consort kept shooting him pointed looks, but since the Emperor didn't believe her, the Emperor would only become more upset if he insisted on backing her up. What was the point of playing the hero for a fleeting moment? Wu Tianzhao would give up anything for the position of Crown Prince. In a sensible tone he said, Royal Father, you're right. I did not see it clearly. Oh, I hope that comes back to bite you. That is not a very loyal thing to do. Mu Tianzhao clearly guiltily avoided his mother's look of disbelief. He was about to become the crown prince. Was it wrong to have some self-preservation? The emperor said unhappily, Noble Consort, even Tianzhao agrees. What do you have to say for yourself? Lady Chue bit her cherry lips. Your Imperial Majesty, I forgot myself and misspoke. Please forgive me. Even her own son had turned his back on her, so what else could she say? She'd had a momentary lapse in judgment. It didn't matter how much she complained, it was useless if the Emperor didn't believe her. The best thing for her to do now was to keep her head down and wait for the Emperor's anger to dissipate. There was no need to fight with the stupid fish. Right at that moment that Lady Chue admitted her folly, Prince Jing's boot stepped on an embroidered handkerchief. Wang Xi, who'd been following behind Prince Jing, rushed forward and picked the handkerchief up. Wang Xi shook the handkerchief out to check who it belonged to and let out a shocked exclamation. Wang Xi, what's your issue? Groaned the Emperor, whose head was beginning to hurt from all the things happening one after another. Wang Xi said, Your Imperial Majesty, this servant just picked up the noble consort's handkerchief, but why does it have fish scales on it? I'm hoping that the Emperor jumps to the conclusion of, you tried to murder a fish, instead of, oh, your story is true. Because one is more logical than the other, even if the other one is technically true. Okay. As he spoke, Wang Xi raised the handkerchief so that everyone could see. A handkerchief embroidered with crab apple flowers. Even the emperor knew it belonged to the noble consort. And just as Wang Xi said, there were a few fish scales still stuck to it. Why would the noble consort's handkerchief have fish scales on it? There was only one fish in all of Tianjin Palace. Prince Jing's fierce eyes flashed over to the noble consort. His gaze is as sharp as a knife. Wang Xi immediately spoke for the prince. Fish scales are part of the fish. They don't fall off for no reason. Did the noble consort do something to our master fish? While our prince wasn't here, our master fish. Oh my goodness, he's upgraded with his title now. As expected of Prince Jing's spokesperson, a powerful attack from Wang Gong. Why does this sound like sports commentary? Liu Ye was delighted, but when did he become a master? He was just a fish. Master. The emperor was speechless. Wang Shi beamed as he explained. Your Imperial Majesty, this servant heard this from Shaolinze first. Shaolinze called the noble consort's cat Master Cat. It's only logical for His Highness's fish to be Master Fish. Like Wong Gong Gong even more than I do, but I do. Oh my word. As the master of the world, the emperor was everyone's master. Was the noble consort trying to put the cat and the emperor on the same level by calling it master? Nonsense. Do not call them that in the future. The emperor glared at Lady Cheer. Noble consort Cheer, what did you do to Prince Jing's fish? Why are there fish scales on your handkerchief? There was no way the noble consort was going to admit she had used the handkerchief to pick up the fish. She hadn't realized it at first, but the moment she walked over to look at the fish, the tables had been turning against her. This fish definitely had it in for her. She'd barely even have time to do anything to it. The fish was clearly the one who was tormenting her. Oh dear, you sound slightly insane. Noble Consort Chu sobbed. Your Imperial Majesty, why didn't you ask Prince Jing? He was the one who bullied my Pao Xue first. Your Imperial Majesty. Throwing everything to the wind, Wang Shi fell to his knees and declared loudly, people are always taking advantage of His Highness's inability to speak in order to frame him. As you know, his injuries take a long time to heal. It's been true since he was young. All the imperial physicians know this. When His Highness was changing just now, the servant noticed a large bruise on his leg. Wang Gong is the MVP, and I will not hear anything otherwise. Its position matches the body shape of that cat. That day, the noble consort's cat ran into His Highness first. That's why His Highness taught it a lesson. This servant implores your Imperial Majesty to believe His Highness. A bruise from the cat? Noble Consort Cheer's pupils contracted. Why hadn't she thought of such a flaw in her plan? The Emperor was very upset to hear that Prince Jing had been injured, and he immediately called for the imperial physician to treat his injury. Once the doctor confirmed that there really was a bruise, the Emperor was no longer able to contain his ire. It's just a cat. How dare it injure a prince? Sir, calm down. It's a cat. It does not really have that level of ability, I don't think. Respect for our wingman, Wangxi. I'm not saying that cats don't know what is going on. They're very smart when they want to be, and they can pretend like they're much dumber than they actually are. But still, calm down. It seems he was right. It really did deserve it. If the cat was the one who ran into Prince Jing, Xiaolinzi must have lied. A quick investigation uncovered the truth. He'd been bribed by the noble consort. Tianqing Palace was a bloodbath. The flames of the emperor's temper surged to a fierce blaze. He hadn't announced the crown prince yet, and noble consort Xue was already out for Prince Jing's blood. When she became Empress Dowager in the future, would Prince Jing make it out alive? The emperor confined Lady Xue to her palace, where she was banned from coming out without summons. Originally, he had been planning to promote her to the imperial noble consorts soon after her birthday, but he really didn't feel like it anymore. Even looking at the future crown prince, the second prince, put him in a foul mood. Lady Xue could have never predicted that her carefully planned scheme would be thwarted in the end by a mere fish. The year had really gone above and beyond this time. It was rowdy out there in the palace, and listening to the kerfuffle was making him sleepy. Thinking there was still a couple of pieces of food left at the bottom of the bowl, Leo managed to pull himself together enough to swim over and eat the fish food. I'm like secretly hoping that Prince Jing picked up the pearl and deposited it into his bowl along with the fish. I don't know if I'm hoping for too much here. Just as he was about to doze off, he was hit by the feeling that he'd forgotten something. Wait, the clear, bright pearl! He'd almost forgotten. Leo immediately flew up to the surface, scanning his surroundings. There it was. The pearl was sitting all by its lonesome in a corner of the palace. No one had realized the noble consort's hair ornament was missing a luminous pearl. Leo was itching to go for it. All he had to do was sneak out and grab the pearl. Even a touch would be good. Perhaps that would be enough for a quest complete. But just then, Wang Shi strolled over, all smiles, grabbed his bowl, and headed outside. Yeah, how are you planning to get back? Is what I'm wondering. What? It turned out the Emperor was still reprimanding Lady Xue. Prince Jing didn't have the patience to listen any longer, so he got up to leave. The little cop that had accompanied him to meet the Emperor obviously had to leave with him too. Hey, are you kidding me? I haven't grabbed the pearl. Wang Shi was only a few steps away from leaving the palace, bowl in hand, when he saw the little carp leaning against the rim of the bowl. It seemed to be staring longingly into a particular direction. Wang Shi nearly laughed out loud. He shook his head. He must be imagining things. As he watched the pearl get further and further away from him, his chances of completing the mission dwindling, Liu felt himself deflate. Right next to him, Prince Jing noted that the little carp looked listless. He considered for a moment, then ordered a servant to go and take a look. Before long, the servant came back holding a pearl. I kind of love Prince Jing right now at the moment. We'll see if it keeps up. Prince Jing recognized the luminous pearl. It was the same one the noble consort wore on her head. He was very sure this was what the little carp had been looking at, because when he emerged from the side hall after changing, he saw the little carp flopping after it. It wanted the jewel that badly. Master, master, please give me the pearl. An invigorated Li swam over. He shimmied cutely, trying to cozy up to the prince by swimming in circles around his hand. It was obvious Li was trying to kiss up to him. Did the fish think wiggling cutely a few times would get him the pearl? It wouldn't be that easy. Prince Jing still had a bone to pick with him. With a faint smile, Prince Jing slipped the pearl into his sleeve. At least it's not a lost cause yet. That's like, oh, that is very interesting though. I feel like we are gonna start seeing more and more of Prince Jing's quote unquote mischievous side that might just be a downright cruel side if he's dealing with people he doesn't like, but in this case it's kind of reading more mischievous, so I'm intrigued to see how that goes. I feel like it's going to be very entertaining to see all the things that he kind of, I don't want to say has Leah do, but you know, all the hoops that Leah is gonna have to jump through in order to get that pearl. And I do wonder when he might start catching on to the fact that this fish is hyper intelligent for a carp. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will be back hopefully on Thursday, if not tomorrow. It's gonna depend on how the schedule works out. But you'll see there's gonna be a scheduled live stream up. I usually try and put it up about 3 hours ahead of time. And whether it's tomorrow or on Thursday, it will always be at 7 p.m. GMT. Well, not always, but in this case, always. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you then. 再见.